Turns out that one of the most coveted jobs in the world of dance is also one of the most exploited. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. So recently, myself, along with probably a lot of you as well, got super sucked into the seemingly perfect world of NFL cheerleading. Thanks, of course, to Netflix's newest docuseries on the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And perfection is absolutely part of the brand. You know, from the perfect shiny hair to the rock hard abs to the sky high kicks, Coach Kelli Finglass made it very clear that there is no room for so much as a fleeting pout. But there is a dark side to those forced smiles, and it goes even deeper than the iconic jump split. We're talking financial exploitation, eating disorders, and problematic beauty standards that ripple across generations. As I always say, there's a lot to unpack. So let's get started. Okay, before we go too far, let's chat about my sponsor today, Element. As you guys know, I've been using Element for several years now because it's got a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams magnesium. Plus it has no colors, sugars, or fillers. And I've been particularly obsessed with my new Element sparkling cans for just like throwing in my bag for road trips or playing tennis. But obviously the stick powders are just like so convenient for toting around whenever, I'm traveling in an airplane or going overseas, etc. So many people overlook all the important roles of electrolytes in the body, from regulating nerve impulses, hormones, nutrient absorption, fluid balance, etc. It's still super hot where I live right now, so I've just been spending a lot of time doing my exercise and workouts outside. And when I get depleted, I just have to stop. I get an instant headache and I just feel drained. So it's really not surprising that Element is a go-to for a lot of my dietitian colleagues who work with professional athletes. So if you want to try it out yourself, go to drinkelement.com/AbbeySharp and definitely check out the drink mixes and their new 16-ounce sparkling electrolyte cans. And the best part is you get a free Element sample pack with any purchase using my link. So go to drinkelement.com/AbbeySharp to learn more. I'm gonna need a lot of coffee for this. Okay, so first of all, I feel like we need to talk finances. So DCC auditions take place in Dallas, where these women are expected to put their jobs and life on pause, knowing that they could be cut at any minute of any day. Now, for the lucky girls who make the team, they have to move across state lines, jeopardize their physical and mental health, give up every evening and weekend hour, smile and look perfect while doing it, and obviously make a bunch of strangers really happy. And yes, they are paid, but not that much. Now, according to some reports that I've read, the girls practice around 20 hours a week, plus training days, plus game days, plus other appearances, and possibly playoffs during their 18-week NFL season. In one episode, they said that they had to work 20 days straight with no time off. Most, if not all of these girls, also have to have working day jobs to pay all of their living expenses. So Kelsey in the show, for example, describes her life as a pediatric nurse by day, working 7:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening, and then going straight to practice for the night. Now, the exact salaries are not disclosed for obvious reasons, but there has been enough speculation that it's clear that they are grossly underpaid. So back in 2018, former DCC Erica Wilkins actually sued the organization, claiming that she was paid $7.50 per hour and around $200 per game for a gross earning total between $5,800 and $16,500. Plus, she had to launder her own uniform and pay for everything that's required to keep up the expected DCC aesthetic. So I don't know, like hair extensions, spray tans, makeup, relocating to Dallas, that is not a cheap lifestyle. Now, since dismissing the claim, I did read on Sports Illustrated that they now do cover some expenses related to the job, so things like uniforms, some meals, health club memberships, and salon services. But I'm not even sure we can call this like a huge win for the girls, seeing as in the first episode, we see Kat Perrier claiming that they make the equivalent of that of a full-time Chick-fil-A worker, which I read was about $400 per game, and according to another cheerleader, around $12.50 per hour. NFL cheerleaders allegedly make less than the water boys and the mascots, and they are arguably infinitely more talented and take more risk. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys are America's most valuable football team, with a net worth of $9 billion. The average salary for an NFL player is allegedly around $2 million, with some making a hell of a lot more. So like Cowboy quarterback Dak Prescott makes $160 million, and team owner Jerry Jones is allegedly worth $14.1 billion. I feel like they can afford to bump the hourly rate a little. And listen, I have done a lot of gigs in my long career for undervalue because I felt that I could use the clout and experience to make money elsewhere, like through spokesperson work, for example. But here's another gross inequality. While the organization is able to benefit and gain from the girls' likeness every day, both on the field and also with the sexy calendars and the custom Barbies that they sell en masse, the girls are not allowed to benefit from their affiliation or titles as DCC by partnering with brands on social media, even though their football player counterparts absolutely are. And whenever someone criticizes the organization for this, we're told, oh, the girls don't do it for the money. They do it for the sisterhood or because they just love to dance. I don't know. Something is feeling very, very off about this. I once saw another creator on TikTok liken DCC to a cult. And whenever I hear them talk about, the sisterhood and the organization, I can't help but get some major culty vibes too. Let me know what you think below. But anyways, I think we now have to talk about the impact on these women's bodies. So obviously all sports come with some risk of injuries. Runners get shin splints, hockey players get concussions, and typically the financial payout takes those risks at least somewhat into consideration. Not so much when you sign up for DCC. I mean, when I saw this clip of ex-DCC Caroline Sunvold, I had to go back and watch that again because I was just so confused. Hip surgery before 30? I audibly gasped. But cheerleading is actually a pretty dangerous sport. And with DCC specifically, it's almost like this risk is just tolerated for the privilege of the sisterhood. So Michelle Sharp, who now works for the organization, allegedly had 12 orthopedic surgeries in 6 years. Kat Puryear tore both of her hips, and Erica Wilkins retired with a severe neck and shoulder injury. And I mean, look at this torturous drop split. That move was designed to break a body. They could absolutely reduce the risk here by changing this long-standing tradition in the choreography, or allowing the girls to dance in running shoes instead of boots, or encouraging the girls to properly fuel themselves and take more rest days, etc. But they don't. And who is physically and financially paying for all of these surgeries? I'm assuming the girls do. Now, another thing that really sets these girls apart from their football player counterparts is the expectations for how their body looks in their uniform. Now, it really should surprise no one that a hypersexualized sport like cheerleading, which caters to crowds that are predominantly men, holds very strict expectations for physical appearance. I'm not a prude. I get that sexy sells, and I never want to shame a woman for choosing clothing that makes her feel empowered and great. This uniform was designed and has not been changed since the 1960s. And the micro shorts and the heeled boots and the Kelly knot tied tight to accentuate one's assets was definitely not designed to support the girl's talent. In fact, looking good in this insanely non-inclusive uniform apparently is one of the biggest determinants of whether or not you even make the team. And while their official website does state that they do not have height or weight requirements on the team, their non-stop body commentary certainly says otherwise.
I think that torso proportion is a big thing. They don't want it to look disproportionalized almost.
I'm seeing too many inches here.
Yeah, we're gonna raise the belt.
Okay.
Back,
thighs look a little angular.
Apparently, your belly button to pant length can be too long. New body insecurity unlocked right there. I cannot even imagine having to stand half naked in the DCC bra and booty shorts while your whole body is being picked apart. And also, no height requirements? Well, that apparently might be changing after Ariana McClure got cut because she looked too short against the other girls. And obviously, height won't really change. But weight, well, that better not change, because one of the unsaid rules of DCC is that your weight needs to stay consistent throughout your tenancy, which for some vets goes up to 5 years of service.
You don't get a new uniform. Like, once you're fitted for that uniform, that size is the size that you get. You don't get to go up. If you go up, they're like, why does this not fit you?
And we see this body criticism throughout the series.
Because then, you know, one year you're too heavy, the next year you're too thin.
She is not at her trimmest state.
We were weighing in like every week. And sometimes it would be like at 11 p.m.
You did have some judges say they wanted you to tone up your tummy.
I think it's harder for girls not to even just not want to starve themselves. Because I know when I look in the uniform, I'm always like, oh man, I need to lose at least 3 pounds.
Ew. I am appalled at myself. No, Mom, my shorts look 3 sizes too small. Where?
And if you think that's bad, like, Netflix probably had to really tone Kelli's commentary down or cut a lot out when we think back to the comments that she was making in the early 2000s iteration of the show Making the Team.
One hamburger away from trying to poke out over that.
Kayla, how many no's? Based on weight figure.
Every one of you either need to tighten it up or tone it up. Just you look heavy.
And our concern is that your weight's not going down, and we don't have time to get you in shape.
Oh yes, the 2000s were toxic as but also, it really hasn't changed much. I mean, apparently the rules for DCC proper nutrition looks the same, and this guidebook gives the girls the following tips. Eat a healthy breakfast, even if it's only a couple of eggs and a piece of toast. Take a multi-stress vitamin every day, take with food. Try not to eat after 6 p.m. When you get home from practice, have a piece of fruit. Try to eat something light 1 hour before rehearsal. Under no circumstances are diuretics, aka water pills or diet pills, allowed, and you need to drink 8 glasses of water per day. A lot of this is counter to everything we know about optimal nutrition to fuel a sport like cheerleading. I don't think breakfast I can get behind, but 2 eggs and a piece of toast, that's like 300 calories max. These women are waking up from like 5 hours of heavy activity the night before and then going into their full work day at their other job before doing it all again. That's a light breakfast for someone who is sedentary, never mind like an on-season athlete. Second are the recommendations around evening meals. Let's just remember for a second that because these women are working all day long at their full-time jobs, practice isn't even starting until like 5:30 or 6 p.m. So you're allowed to eat something light before you start, whatever that means. But once you're in practice, the 6 p.m. eating window has closed. So these girls are gonna go home after having only eaten something light for an early dinner and nothing more than like a banana as post-workout recovery fuel. So let's just compare this with best practices for a hypothetical 125-pound 5'7" cheerleader. According to the Harrison Benedict calculator, this athlete would need around 2,700 calories per day, with at least 60 grams of carbs and 20 to 30 grams of protein after training. Underfueling pre and post workout increases muscle breakdown, weakens our immune function, impairs recovery, and increases the risk of injury. And for women specifically, it also is a recipe for female athlete triad, which is characterized by low energy availability, which I talked a lot more about in my intermittent fasting for women video, along with a loss of period and loss of bone mass and risk of osteoporosis. This is critical hormonal health time for these girls, and it may take years to undo the damage that the organization has done. Now, they don't show much in the way of actual meals on the show, maybe because it's like triggering, or maybe it would make the organization look bad, but we did see Victoria's mom prepare this lunch.
The meal of a DCC.
My first year, before my cut, I was called in 4 or 5 times.
The meal of a DCC here is grossly inadequate to fuel practice and post-activity recovery. I counted a generous 350 calories here. And if we consider the rules we just discussed, there really isn't a lot of time later on in the day to make up for this. And I just think it's so ironic that throughout the series, we see Kelli talk about the importance of fueling your body. But if these girls were to actually fuel themselves for their sport, they would very likely fail the elusive jiggle test and their title would be ripped away. Not surprisingly, the pressure to remain this thin can ultimately result in a full-blown eating disorder pretty damn fast, as evidenced by veteran DCC Victoria Kalina's story.
And I go through that cycle when that depression zone hits. It's a binge purge cycle. It's a binge to get that feel good, that empty feeling filled again. But then game time comes, so then you just gotta get into those baby clothes, get into that baby uniform, and that cycle just keeps going.
There's no way to hide it, like anything. It's like so mentally challenging to keep that physique up. Whether it's healthy habits, bad habits, it's hard.
I just have to say that I really related to Victoria and her story in so many ways. Like you could see, that type A perfectionist, I don't fail at things attitude when they sat her down and they gave her that really hard feedback at the end of her 4th season. And her response in that moment was, no, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna push harder. I just feel like this is such a common thought for a lot of us who have struggled with an ED brain. It's like, you don't think I'm sick enough? Oh, I will show you, right? But I was just so proud of her when she put her foot down and she was like, the abuse ends here. I am worthy of finding peace and happiness, and it's never gonna happen in DC. I was just so proud when she came to that realization. And I know that they really only zoned in on Victoria's ED experience, but I would be shocked if this wasn't just kind of like an accepted way of life for a lot of these women. And they probably accept that because they see this as like a finite period in their life where they're just gonna live in a constant state of body surveillance, deprivation, discomfort, and probably also a lot of pain. And once you let that ED mindset into your brain, it is really hard to untwist those wires. And ultimately, it's never up to me to say that a life experience or a job like being in DCC isn't worth it, even though, maybe to me, it absolutely would not be. It's not my dream. But all I can hope for is a future where the reward of this sisterhood doesn't require such a risk, where, we can hire dancers for their talent rather than fire them because their torso is too short or their belly jiggles ever so slightly when they bounce, where we can update the sexist, archaic uniform that's been in operation for 60 years to encourage better body diversity, or where we can pay these athletes fairly so that they don't have to take another job and ultimately burn out, and where we can encourage these athletes to fully fuel their bodies properly to reduce the risk of long-term hormonal damage and injury. Breaking women's bodies and souls should not be a flex. This is 2024. And I know this is Texas, but come on. We need to do better to protect the health and well-being of young women with huge talent and big dreams. And I'm not even gonna deny that this series was totally addictive to watch, but what I got out of it the most was, the secondhand embarrassment that this is still happening. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I would love to hear from you about how you felt watching these clips. Because for me, it was just like a smack back to the early 2000s where, we were watching The Swan and Style by Jury, and we were just tearing women down in a public forum in front of millions of people. It's super cringe. Anyways, leave me a comment below and please remember to be kind and supportive in the comment section. And I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!